Hello to Afro-Vision Network and welcome. Today we're breaking down a proposed bill that some are calling the latest assault on our democratic process, the SAVE Act of 2025. Despite its fancy name, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act isn't about saving votes. It's about putting up roadblocks that could disenfranchise millions of eligible Americans. Let's dive into why this legislation is more of a voter suppression vortex than a tool for protecting our elections. Under the SAVE Act, every American who registered or re-registers to vote will be forced to present an in-person document, proof of U.S. citizenship. In most cases, that means you have to show a passport, birth certificate with a current photo ID. Sounds simple. Not quite, though. The problem is twofold. First, tens of millions of Americans, especially those with lower incomes, don't have valid passports. In fact, only about half of American adults hold on to one. And second, consider married women. About 79% of them change their last names after marriage. That means their birth certificates often don't match their current legal name, leaving them in a bureaucratic limbo. So what looks like a harmless request becomes a massive barrier to voting. Instead of verifying eligibility using existing systems, the SAVE Act forces every citizen to jump through an expensive, time-consuming hoop. Online and mail-in registration methods that have been modernized, voter registration, will be wiped out overnight. Imagine having to physically visit a government office every time you move, change your name, or update your details. For rural voters and those with limited transportation options, that's a tall order. It's like demanding everyone to run a 5K before they can vote. And here's another twist. Non-citizen voting is already extremely rare and illegal. So why impose such extreme measures? The SAVE Act shifts the burden from our election officials who already have robust systems to verify voter eligibility to the citizens themselves. It essentially says, prove you're American or don't vote. That's a prescription for widespread disenfranchisement, elimination of online mail registration. Millions will be forced to register in person, which is inconvenient and costly. Disproportionate impact on vulnerable groups, married women who change their names, low-income individuals, rural voters will be hit the hardest. As far as the increased administrative burden, election officials face the risk of criminal penalties for registration errors, which could lead to overly cautious practices that further reduce voter participation. Unnecessary and ineffective. With non-citizenship voting already ineligible, the bill addresses a non-problem while creating massive barriers for eligible voters. In short, the SAVE Act of 2025 might sound like it's all about safeguarding elections, but in reality, it's a vote-killing vortex. It dismantles modern accessible voter registration methods and places an undue burden on millions of Americans. Instead of making elections more secure, it risks sidelining the very citizens it claims to protect. If you believe in democracy, where every eligible vote counts, it's time to speak out. Contact your representatives and tell them that America's voting rights should be expanded, not strangled by unnecessary red tape. And I would like to thank you for joining us. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, a healthy democracy relies on the power of every vote. Let's make sure our voices aren't lost in a bureaucratic maze.